Hello, Happy New Year to you all and welcome back to Rue's Life on this rather dreary day. And here I am back in the polytunnel, and there's been bits and bobs going on but not a lot. But what I want to talk about is what's happening from now going forwards here at the plot and in other areas, but particularly today here on the vegetable plot. So starting off here in the polytunnel, I did get a huge amount done before the end of the year. I got a lot of tidying and sorting done, but the last few bits and bobs that I would have done didn't happen for a number of reasons, and I think it's much the same for all of us, isn't it? You know, we've had a fabulous growing season, we've still got a few bits and bobs going on, and then you know, we come into the festive season and we're tied up with that. For me, it's my busiest time at work, so a lot of my time has gone into work and extra shifts, organising staff, making sure that the clinic had everything it needed to run well, and we've still got a couple more shifts to go before we're out the other side. And on top of that, I personally have been quite poorly. I'm still not 100% recovered, so everything's just taken a little bit longer. But for me, that's the wonderful thing about growing and gardening, is that, you know, you can just stop sometimes for a while, and those things that are growing will just keep growing. And at this time of the year, you can afford to leave your plots and your gardens for days and even weeks and not really do very much. On the rest of the small holding, of course, the animals at this time of the year have to come first. They've got to be fed and watered and checked and warm, and that has to come first. So the garden can just stop while I concentrate on other things. But now I'm starting to feel a bit better and I've got a little bit more time again. It's time to crack on again. So you can just see here are my chilli plants, and I had considered cutting those back and either having them in the house or covering them and trying to actually overwinter them, but that just didn't happen. So those pots will need clearing. Behind you there's still some parsnips in that bed, and I will lift those, get them chopped and get them into the freezer. I'll show you the other bits and bobs that we've got going on in here. The temperatures really plummeted for a couple of weeks, but they have come back up and it's mild again, but I'm under no illusion they will drop again over the coming months before we finally emerge into the spring. Here I've actually still got some tomato vines. There were some tomatoes and they've all just plopped off onto the floor and into the pot, so that's going to need clearing also. Here I've got some netting from outside which I'd hung in here to dry. That just needs folding and putting away. I've got some bamboo canes here, there's gloves, there's some bubble wrap, there's some tools. So there's just a few bits and bobs that need tidying and clearing. Here are my parsnip tops from our festive meal, the leaves that I took off the top, so they just need popping onto the compost heaps. So lots to do, but I'm really looking forward to just pottering, getting a few bits and bobs done. So let's get on with that, and then we'll pop outside and I'll show you what's going on out there. in just a very short space of time, I'm already starting to feel productive and I'm starting to get excited about the season ahead. So as I've already mentioned, I've got a few bits and bobs still going and I will show those to you. But while we're in the shed here, so I have been putting things away. I didn't get the chance tail end of the year to have a really good tidy up in here, and I have got plans here in the shed. So I'm going to leave it now until the proper spring weather comes and we get a nice warm dry day. And what I want to do is actually empty the contents of the shed out. I want to give it a good lick of paint inside, put everything back, give it a good old decobweb sort out, and I actually want to paint the outside of the shed as well, because although the two sides of it are very well painted and preserved, there were two sides. I bought this shed second hand and it was quite obvious that it had been sat in a corner and those two edges had never really got, I think they'd had the original coat and then they hadn't been kept on top of, and I did give them one coat, but the whole shed could do with another coat. And exciting times, I am actually thinking of changing the colour of the outside of the shed. So I'm going to keep this lovely creamy white inside because it's light and bright and I just like the feel of this shed. It's a lovely place to spend time. But the outside I have plans for, and I'm not going to spoil it for you, so comment below if you can guess what colour I'm going to be painting the outside of the shed. Be really interested to hear what you think I might be painting it or what your suggestions would be. So watch this space for the springtime video where I will be spring cleaning and decorating the shed both inside and out. But now's a really good time also. I have got quite a lot of seeds, so I have my trusty seed, and a list, lists galore. I've got my seed tin, but basically what's left in here now are the last things that I sowed tail end of the season and tail end of the year. So what I tend to do is every now and then I'll have a seed sort and then I'll have a list of what I want to be sowing and growing, and I'll pop the ones that I need into this tin, and I really love this tin. It's just really cute. But the rest of my seeds, let me show you. So the rest of my seeds I actually keep in this old metal filing cabinet, which is great because it keeps everything dry. So I've got various packets, and when I'm really organised, which I'm clearly not at the moment because everything's just been rammed in bags and envelopes, but you can see where I have these really lovely little boxes, and I am actually quite organised, and I have it all layered up here with all these little kind of Tupperware pots, and I really need to go through those. I've also got a couple of packets of this silica gel that comes in things when you get parcels in the post, so I keep that in here as well to try and keep all my seeds nice and dry, and this system works really well for me. So I will be going through those seeds, sorting them out, putting everything back into their little boxes. So I keep things together, so tomato seeds all in one, salads in another. Yeah, I have a little system going. The other thing that I like to do, as those of you that have been following me for a while will know, I'm a big list writer. So I find these little dry whiteboards, they're really cheap, and I have the little pens to go with them, and every now and then I can go through and I can make lists. I love to tick things off. It makes me feel that I'm achieving things, and it really helps with my mental health. One of the huge benefits to me with my gardening is every element of it, from sorting out my seeds to making my lists to actually getting things done and being in the moment while I'm doing them, but also ticking off those tick lists. It really helps me to keep my head feeling in a good space. So, you know, when everything else in life is crazy mental, and we all have, you know, different areas in our lives, don't we, be it work or family or whatever it may be, but this really is the place that I come to restore balance. So making my lists, sorting out my seeds, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I also have various books, as you can see here, and notebooks. So I'll be sitting down, going through those seeds, making some lists and making some plans for the season ahead. So one of the things that I had, let's put this pen away, was this lovely calendar which you may have seen in some of my Facebook or Instagram posts, and now a little critter's been in now and chewed it, but this was a beautiful gift which I've really enjoyed through the year, and it was a lovely calendar which I had on the back of the door. It was really useful for making a note of things like when I'd watered in my nematodes and when the next ones were due. I have to say, I'm not a great one for documenting. I know for some people they like to, you know, write down when they've sown things and when they harvest, and then they can compare each year. And although I like to be organised and relatively structured, I'm not one for, I use my videos for looking back. I like to see, you know, how seasons have gone, but I'm not a great one for, you know, exact, write this down here, write that down there. For me, it takes the joy out of it. I'm very much not only an organic gardener in the true sense of the word, but my gardening style is also very organic, and I tend to kind of do what I feel is right at the time, and if things grow, they grow, and if they don't, they don't. So of course I'm going to try and sow and grow and plant things at the right time of year, but I'm not a real stickler for timings, if that makes sense. But the benefit of this beautiful, now rather tatty calendar is that if I just take these staples out, this can go onto the compost heap. It's all made with natural dyes. It was a year in the country. It had some beautiful pictures, so I can rip that up into little bits because, as I say, it's printed on natural paper with natural dyes, so that can be ripped up and popped into the compost. So that's a little job that I can be doing. And as I say, this is a great time, isn't it, for planning and making lists and getting ready. So I'm going to pop back into the polytunnel and finish up in there. So I'll just need my secateurs because I need to chop down those tomatoes and the chilies. I may tip the chili compost out as well, or I might pop that onto the beds. And we'll have a little look around at what's still growing in there and things that I can still be harvesting. So let's go into the polytunnel. So I'm going to start off with these tomatoes. I'm just going to chop them down and pick up those manky tomatoes that are in the bottom of the pot and any other sort of fallen around the floor, and get those onto the compost heap. And I'm also going to chop those chilies down. Now, doesn't that look better? So just a few moments of tidying and sorting. I've cleared away all those dead plants from over here, and it's already looking better. Bit of a sweep and tidy up, and it's looking great. So let's spin the camera around and I'll show you what I've still got going here in the polytunnel, and then we'll pop outside. So in this corner here, I've still got a few parsnips left. We did enjoy the bulk of those. Oh my goodness, we had such a lovely festive meal. I'll pop you a little picture in so you can see. It was delicious. We actually had locally sourced venison, and all of our vegetables were homegrown, which was just lovely. So it was a very locally produced, low miles, organic meal, and it tasted all the better for it. And then in this bed here, You can see that the cold weather has affected the chard a little and the spinach, but we've still got some nice fresh growth coming through. So I will give this a little bit of attention, chop out some of those floppy leaves and let that fresh growth come through. The bean arches are empty, but we've got a little bit of, I think that's chard, or is it spinach? Let's have a little look. Yep, so we've got some chard here. There's a tiny bit of chard there, but it's not doing too brilliantly. And then these were the nasturtium that I kept going for as long as I could, which we were feeding to Victor, our tortoise, but you can see again, they don't like the cold, and it did finally get to them. But they survived longer for being in the polytunnel. Then on the ground here, this is one of my geraniums, the one that I have on my window box on the shed during the summer months, which is covered over to protect it. We've still got these little pansies going, and again, they're very pretty, but they're also food for Victor. I've got 2 empty tubs here, and this is actually a lemon balm, but this pot was just in the wrong place. It was over in the far corner and it was under a drip. So you do get condensation in a polytunnel, and this was just sitting at one of the points where it dripped over there. So I've tipped out some of the water and moved it, and hopefully it'll dry out. And there is a little bit of green there, so hopefully that lemon balm will come back. I'm just going to tilt the camera. We're quite close to the hanging basket here, and you can see all the hanging baskets with the geraniums in all around the tunnel. I've brought them in and I've covered them and wrapped them up with fleece to protect them from the element, or from the cold weather, and hopefully they'll survive through to the spring. Again, empty bean arches. This is a bed that's got some young carrots growing, and they should just continue to slowly grow, and I'll get an early spring harvest from those. Chop down the chilies, chop down the tomatoes. Over here we've still got some baby spinach coming, and that should flourish with the warmer weather and as the light now lengthens in the daytime. This is some rocket, which again has taken a bit of a battering with the cold weather, but there's still some green there, and that should bounce back. This is a tub of carrots. They're a little bit close together and they're not looking great, so I'll have a little look at those, maybe thin them out, but again we might get a fairly early harvest from those. This is Mizuna, which again the tortoise Victor really enjoys. And believe it or not, this is a little bit of calendula, and I can't remember what else was in there, but again, it was Victor food, but it has succumbed to the cold weather. And then over here, this is plantain, which is a weed, but again, it's there's plenty in the middle there, which we're still picking out for Victor. And then over here, so here on the staging, I've actually got some beetroots of different varieties. We've got Chioggia, Burpee's golden, oh goodness, I can't, multicoloured, and these are probably just good old, oh no, Morton. I thought they'd be Boltardi because they're the ones I often grow. I'm going to throw them. They've been sitting here too long. I intended to get them out and it never happened. These are leek seedlings. They've gone way over. These are mustard southern giant salad. Some of the leaves I've picked out and given to Victor, but again I should have moved them out of this tray. These were some snowball turnips, and this chard, actually the Lucullis chard, if I pop that into a bed we might have half a chance, but they're just those things that I never got round to moving on. And you know, we all do that, don't we? And it is what it is. But the advantage when we have anything like this, that we didn't do any more than sow and grow to this height, it can go back into the compost heap and be recycled, so nothing is wasted. And let's just have a little walk around out here. So the onions are looking great. The bulk of this bed is a white onion, and then there's a few of the red onions at the end here from the marker, which I don't think you can see from where you are, but there's a marker at that end of the bed. And I have more onions over in that end of the brassica bed next to Ollie the owl. We've still got a few brassicas going. I'll get you a bit closer in a moment. This bed here has been completely put to bed and will be rested until the spring. And sections of this bed here have also I've got some little leek seedlings that are slowly growing, and we've still got some beetroot in that bed as well. And here is the flower bed, which had been completely overcome with weeds, and you can see I've made a really good start on weeding that. I do need to weed that section over there, but that will get done in time. Some of these will return, and I might split things like the rudbeckia and move a few clumps around, and then I will start some more seeds during the spring. So again, we hopefully will have another beautiful riot of colour. And I've really enjoyed this flower bed. It was new for the season just gone, and I've absolutely loved it. It's been a haven for wildlife, for those fabulous pollinators. It's been an absolute delight to sit either in the shed or at the table and just watch the bees and the butterflies buzzing around, going from flower to flower. And I've also had a lot of cut flowers which I've taken into the house or taken as gifts when I've been visiting people, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it progress, because I think over the next couple of years it's really going to develop. Now, something I have been working on slowly over the tail end of the winter months is these pathways. So I've just been taking out any weeds, and I've been slowly topping them up with bark all the way around the edges of the beds. And my plan going forward is that I'm going to have more bark sections, particularly in front of the polytunnel here, but in this area, and also there's a strip behind you that also needs doing. I do use the weed suppressant membrane, so I lay that out and then I pop my bark on top. Anything that's really rotted down, I can pull it up and I can use that either on the compost heap or directly onto the beds as mulch, and then I top it up with some fresh bark. Now, I've still got quite a lot of beetroot here, and we're really enjoying those, fresh out the ground, scrubbed and roasted. But you can see there's a little bit of leaf damage there that's gone quite soggy, and that was during the really heavy frosts. So I will just pull those up and pop them on the compost, but there's a little bit of fresh green there, and the beets themselves under the ground are still good. And again, you can see now we're closer this mulched area. And then if we just move along, as I say, this bed is completely being rested, and here we've still got my Brussels sprouts were not the best in the world this year. It was a funny old start, wasn't it, to the season. Let's get you in a better position. So this is the plant that I took the bulk of the sprouts off for our festive meal. There's some teeny tiny ones here. And I'm going to leave these alone for now. And then, of course, we've still got these lovely tops, and they're great as winter greens. The purple sprouting broccoli has pretty much come to an end now. There's a tiny little bit on that, but nothing really worth taking. The rest of the brassicas are pretty much finished now. And at this end of the bed is where I put my red onion sets, and they're doing well. They're always a little bit slower to come than the white onions, which are over in the bed that I've already shown you across there, but they'll come. And the funny thing I find with them is that the red ones are always slower to come, but they're always the ones that want to bolt. And then behind me here, just to the side, I've cut the raspberry canes back, and the bit that I didn't do, here are all the old strawberry plants and also quite a lot of weeds, and I do intend to take some of these plants out, and across on the bench there are those little strawberries that I took from the runners. So let's go and have a look at those. So here they are. They're still looking fine. You know, strawberries are very difficult to kill, but what I did decide was I'd missed my warmer window before those heavy frosts came, so I've left these in the pots. I've left that bed alone, and what I will do as we go into the warmer months is I'll pull out some of those old strawberry plants and replace them with these new ones. So it feels absolutely great to be planning for the season ahead and just getting little bits done, and to also still have a few bits that I can pick from here in my vegetable garden. So do let me know in the comments below where you're up to. Have you started sowing anything yet? I'm starting to think about sowing things like my sweet peas, and I am going to start getting a list together of things that I'm going to be sowing and growing over the coming months. So it's really great to be back. I've really missed the interaction that I have with you all. Thank you so much for supporting me over not just last year but all the years that I've been doing this channel. I really do appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs up if you have. If you haven't already subscribed, do consider doing so, and you can follow my season as I start to sow and grow and produce wonderful vegetables, we hope, in my polytunnel and outside in those beds. But for now, thank you for watching. Take care, and I'll see you all again soon.